Okay, we got somebody on the phone.
Let's do a quick roll call just to kind of see who all's here. So if anybody doesn't see, obviously I'm here.
I'm here, Paul
I'm
Kumar.
here.
Cindy,
I'm here. I just don't know how to get.
connected?
Can you see me?
Yes, it's your phone.
It's on. Yes. Usually I'm on. I can't see anyone else. Participants.
Technical difficulties. Give us just a second, y'all.
Am I doing something wrong?
Paul,
I think you're calling in. I think you need to log directly to the Zoom. I would recommend everybody mute your microphones unless you're talking. That would probably help us a lot. Thank you.
we'll give her just a second to get reconnected and then we'll get started.
Hey, Chassie, did you message Stephen?
I did.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he had to work today or what's going on.
I think I'm going to mute everybody and see.
You'll mute me.
You can unmute yourself. Okay.
I have to unmute myself for you to hear me.
That's
Okay.
right.
Well, I'm going to go through the agenda real quick and hopefully Cindy will get logged back in, but just kind of a quick overview. We're going to go through some old business. We're going to talk about kind of how COVID has challenged the 2020 season. We're going to talk about the events that happened in 2020. We're going to talk about the jerseys that we were supposed to do this year that will get pushed to 2021. And then we'll go into some new business and try to get a handle on the 2021 schedule and talk about some different stuff for 2021. So the COVID challenges, you know, it's probably going to be easier just to go through the cycling events that actually happened or the ones that I know about that happened. And if there's any that I left out, please forgive me because it was hectic. So some of them may have shown up on the schedule and some of them may not have. In January, we had the Ouachita Gravel Grind and the Buffalo Headwaters in January as well, which both of those gravel and mountain bike. In February, there was the Wildcat mountain bike race and the Northwoods Enduro mountain bike. Hazel Valley Grand Prix in February, and then the Crosswinds Classic was the only road race that we ended up with in 2020, which was in February. And then USAC stepped in March and canceled all permits and put a hold on all permits. And so things didn't really get started back up until July. The River Valley Rumble mountain bike race happened in July. I'm not sure if the Kessler mountain bike race happened. That would have been in August or not. I had it marked down still on the calendar, so I don't know if it happened or not. The Tour de Rock, I think, went to a virtual format, and a lot of the events actually went to virtual format as well. NICA did all of their series as far as I know, and they finished up in October. Slobberknocker in September, the Cardiac Classic Road Fondo Cindy did in September in Little Rock. Spring Hill mountain bike race, and then the Chinkapin gravel race happened, and the Gudrun mountain bike race finished up in November. Didn't do any cross races this year at all. So income was slim to none for ABC and for most of our promoters out there, unless they did their virtual events. Anybody have anything different than that, or anything that they want to share as far as, you know, what they actually struggled with COVID? Because this isn't something that's going to go away. It's something that we're going to have to, it's something that we're going to have to deal with next year as well. And some of the changes are still going to be in through next year. So, you know, whether we decide to schedule things or not schedule things, we're going to have to make some changes, and we're going to have to do some things to try to alter what we do to make sure that we have successful events. Checking out some chat real quick. Nika had one race. Okay. And Joe Martin Grand Fondo, Bruce says, was also an in-person event. So anybody else have anything to add for cycling events? You'll probably have to unmute yourself if you want to tell me anything.
That happened, or you ready to jump off into, you know, potential 2021?
No, just challenges that maybe you had, or reasons that you chose not to do an event, or, you know, anything that you can impart that's going to help maybe with our 2021 events, not necessarily going into the 2021 events, but, you know, things that you adjusted for or changed in order to get an event off. The simple steps like talking to the health department or that kind of stuff that you had to do that was different.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, we had 7 in-person events, running, triathlon, and, you know, bike, ride, or gravel. And so we got to know the health department pretty well. In fact, a real funny story about our 4th or 5th permit, the director of the health department called me and he said, "Man, you're just killing me with these, you know, these submissions. Can I write you one letter that approves all your events, because your protocols are solid. You've obviously have best practices based upon the national governing bodies you're dealing with. And, you know, I mean, I've looked at you, been around quite a while." And I said, "Sir, I hate to say this, but, you know, the U.S. Forest Service or the city of Fayetteville or whomever, they're going to want their name associated with that event." He said, "Okay, let me go." And so I think the health department was pretty confident that we were a non-stadium type event, right? And we were under 500 people. And I think I don't know if he was a runner or a cyclist, but he understood what was happening and was very comfortable with that throughout the year. I mean, we actually had approval for the Raptor Gravel Grinder December 5th, but the city of Fayetteville ask us not to move forward with that. And, you know, based upon we'd had a good year, social media wise, no blowback. We thought, you know, let's not do that. Although, you know, 17,000 Razorback fans in a stadium and we can't have 100 people outdoors. Come on. But anyway, I'll digress. So I think if you're smaller events, the health department's going to be pretty supportive. I think it's going to boil down to what your local municipality is willing to do. And we've got some really good protocols. Most of our our websites have something under COVID-19, and I'm happy to share more if you don't see what's out there. You know, USA Track and Field, USA Triathlon, USA Cycling all approved our permits. Fayetteville Parks and Rec, which was very, you know, they were on edge because when they canceled their, you know, baseball tournaments in early summer, we were their first event back in September. And they were, you know, I mean, they were obviously very, you know, they were just nervous, which, you know, I can understand. So, I mean, they were probably the toughest of anyone to, you know, get something approved, and it wasn't tough. It just, you know, we worked through it. So one final thing I'll tell you about Joe Martin Stage Race. We've been talking to the professional teams for the past 6 months, and, you know, and their livelihood was crushed, right? It was zero. They've done some races in South America, but they'll only get one more year without not racing before their sponsors are done, right? They will not support another professional racing team. And so they're looking at talking to races about when they feel like they're going to be able to travel because of riders in other countries, states, where they're located. And they've really asked the pro race director tour or the pro road tour, which is about 18 events, to really not start before May. But they're pretty confident they're ready to go in June. So that's one interesting piece of information. We're talking, 40 different teams we've discussed this with. So we have a real breadth of knowledge of people that have, we're talking millions of dollars at stake for these teams. But secondly, I think what we're excited about, we've just signed 2 major hospital systems in the state of Arkansas to really big sponsorships for 2021. And so I think the takeaway there, why would a healthcare system want to be out front and their name on something of mass gatherings if they didn't have a high degree of confidence of where we'll be when we're starting to have the bigger events starting in the summer, although our first event's March 13th. So anyway, that's some broad brush information that I've gleaned over the last few months, and then what we've done over the last for producing events.
Bruce, did you go to the local health department or did you go through the state?
No, it was only the state. We never interacted with a local health department.
Okay. Anybody else have anything to add? I think Bruce probably did the most events except for our mountain bike events. So, and if I'm not hearing anything, I'm gonna.
Hey, I'll go.
Okay.
I
Beautiful.
don't know any of you. Hi, my name's Lauren Hildreth. I work with Bike NWA. Honestly, I'm not even 100% sure who everyone is and what's represented here. But we changed course on almost every event and race that we were supposed to do this year, which I guess from what sounds like a more relevant standpoint is the Arkansas Enduro Series. That was all moved to a virtual program. And Candace and Slaughter Trail Guides, Dustin Slaughter, worked pretty hard on finding a way to keep people engaged this year. And I think we still managed to hit like 3 or 4 what would have been races by having different elements to the Enduro Series. Otherwise, all the rest of our events were postponed or canceled or morphed into some other kind of initiative. We are hopeful that we'll be able to do a lot of those things next year, but did move away from our in-person events for the all of 2020. We made that call a few months ago that we were not going to do any in-person events for the rest of the year.
Well, Lauren, you reminded me that we stopped at the roll call, that we didn't make it past me or Paul since we had a connection problem. So since you've already introduced yourself, I'll let the rest of the people that are on the call introduce themselves so they can, you can figure out who else is on here, because it's kind of a combination of a lot of different clubs, directors, all kinds of different stuff. ABC has been trying to put their name back out there and make sure that we're known and we're available to all the different clubs and everybody that's doing cycling events in Arkansas instead of just the racing aspect of it. So that's why you're here. So
Thanks.
Jim, you want to go next?
Yes, I'm Jim Allen. I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I'm on the board with Carve Cycling, Central Arkansas Velo, and and also an official. What am I trying to say?
What events does Carve
USAC
normally
official.
do? Yeah, what events does Carve normally do?
Well, pretty much faithfully over the last few years, we've had, as you said, the kind of a kickoff road race with Crosswinds, which typically is in late February. The last couple of years, then another base is that we have some local crits at Burns Park that run 4 to 6 weeks towards the end of May and first part of June. And then the other staple has been doing the state time trial every year here in Central Arkansas. And then last year we picked up again the state crits, which we had at the Arkansas State Capitol grounds. And then lastly, we do the Slobber Knocker, which is a gravel race ride event out at Lake Sylvia area, out in the National Forest.
Don't y'all
And-
do local time trials, midweek series time trials too?
No, that is the Beelans. That's
Okay.
Susan and Fred Beelan
Okay.
doing those. We typically bring in our, kind of historically have tried to tag our crits at the end of theirs
Okay.
time trial series.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nick and
I'll go next just because I'm with CAR also. My
Awesome.
name's David Gill. I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas, and Jim and I are on the board of CAR. We'll also just throw out there, our event equipment is used for several other events in Central Arkansas, as well as supporting some of the local other local organizations that are putting on usually some type of fun ride.
awesome. Did y'all get all your equipment replaced?
We did. We last year we had a fundraiser, and we had a donation of the trailer itself, and we raised funds and we've replaced everything that was in it. So
Awesome.
we were able to use all that equipment for a slobber knocker this year.
Beautiful.
It was
Marvin,
great.
I see your name next on the list. She may have a mouthful of food.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So my name's Carmen Newberry. I'm with All Sports Productions. Bruce has spoken mostly to what we've done and will be doing.
Okay. And we've got Joe Pewitt.
Yes, Joe Pewitt here. I run the BMC, aka Walmart team. We also have the Bellevue Facebook page where we do a lot of our road cycling, the Gravel Grinders page, which is all of our gravel rides that we do. More anything else is I'm trying to get the club more involved in doing events or helping volunteer at events. So anytime you guys need any bodies, I'll try and wrangle some people up and make sure that we can help out anywhere we can.
And I think I see Logan.
Good evening. My video back on here. So good evening. My name is Logan Hall, and with me here is my daughter Harlow. I am with the Arkansas Mountain Bike Championship Series, AMBCS. Also work with Bruce and Carmen's protege in the All Sports Production world. And so as far as the AMBCS goes, we are somewhat the governing body of the championship series through the state. So we kind of help dictate all the points, come up with rules, and do a little bit more of that jazz. Also, used to work with Fred and had taken over a few of his events, Dog Days mountain bike race, and then the Iron Mountain Man marathon down at Iron Mountain Marina. And that's pretty much it there. So I'm all over the place with events and other stuff here.
Terry's next on the list.
Hey there, Terry Coddington. I'm kind of first and foremost, I'm the Associate League Director for NICA. We put on 4 events in the fall, typically start September, finish in October. We'll have some unofficial kind of practice events in the spring. That we were supposed to do one with Missouri that we postponed this year. We're going to plan on doing that again since they're a new NICA league. And then kind of as a side to that, I'm also the head coach for the Conway Bearcats. And so we put on the Ugly Gnome, which is an AMBCS race at Willie Hollow State Park. We canceled it this year due to COVID. And basically, like, and I don't know, we're going to schedule it this year. It's all subject to change being in the state park. If they mandate the 50-person limit like they had before, then that event won't happen again. One of the big things we want to do is maintain the quality. People don't go just to race. It needs to be an event. And that's kind of what we want to try to provide, is a good time and food and camaraderie and getting people together, and hopefully we can plan on that. But if not, we may have to pivot and come up with something else. So we'll see.
I see Tim.
Oh, Tim Scott, Devil's Den State Park, as everybody knows, the birthplace of Arkansas mountain biking. I'm on the board with Logan on the AMBCS, also a USAC official. Mountain bike races only, please. And we do a couple of events that I promote for mountain bike events at the park. The fall race, Northwest Arkansas Mountain Bike Championships, and in the spring we have the Mountain Bike Festival, which is the Ozark Mountain Bike Festival. And hopefully those will happen this coming year, which they didn't happen last year because of our rules and regs with state parks. So that's it.
Okay, I've got somebody on the line that is just a phone number, 936-0525. I'm not sure who that is. They may not recognize their own phone number. And then the only other person that I see on the line is Cindy Brown. I'm hoping she's reconnected. But we kind of got a wide variety, which I like. Kind of somebody from everywhere to represent a little bit of everything. So that's great. I'll kind of keep going here. We talked about last year, we were planning on bringing in some new state championship jerseys, and I had contracted with Eliel to bring in the state championship jerseys, which we didn't have any state championship races last year, so that did not occur. And we essentially just put that contract on hold. So we haven't paid anything, and it's just sitting there, and they're willing to suspend it until we're ready to sign it. So hopefully we'll be doing that in 2021, but that's going to depend on how our season goes. And so that will lead us right into the new business, which we're going to talk a little bit about funding. We're going to talk a little bit about the events for 2021. I want to talk to you all a little bit about, again, how the Arkansas Bicycle Coalition can help the local events. We're still looking for ways to provide service or something to the events or races or things that are happening in Arkansas, some way that we're able to support that. Like, the CARB has their trailer and their equipment and things like that, where they're, donating that services to other places. We don't have a huge income, but we do have some money in reserve, and we'd like to put that back into Arkansas racing. And maybe 2021 is the year that we need to do some of that, since there wasn't much of an income for 2020 for some of these promoters. So I'm, again, entertaining any ideas on that when we get to that part too. And then a little bit about officials and what that may end up looking like, and who's still here and who's gone. So events 2021, I was kind of rounding up and looking at what I had. Let me see if I can share what I had. Well, Paul, can you give me access to share my screen?
Yeah, just that little green.
Yeah, it says it's disabled.
Okay, let's see if I can rename.
Because I've got this on a
Okay.
PDF I can share.
You should be able to.
Okay, I'll try again. Nope, it says still disabled. If I can't get it to work, then we'll just talk through it. Because I know how much y'all love to hear me talk.
I wonder if it's because the recording.
I don't know.
What does it say if you click that green?
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, there's an advanced. Hold on. Only host all participants. Okay, you should be okay now.
Okay, let's try. Can y'all see my screen?
No, but I switched it from only host to everyone. So.
Oh, okay. Share. I may not be able to figure it out anyway.
Should be good.
And once you hit share, it's going to ask you what your
Yeah.
desktop or the app.
I'm going through that now.
Okay.
Gotta love. Okay. I think I did that. Let's try again. Okay.
Yep.
All right. We're in business. That's 2020. No, that's not what I want either. There's 2021. All right. So let me get rid of some of this stuff so y'all can see me. So I kind of have a tentative list going for 2021. And this is just kind of what it's going to look like. If you can see that, the green is mountain bike events. The orange is going to be gravel. The blue is road.
Whoa.
And if it's black still, it's cyclocross. So just at the beginning of the screen, I'm going to kind of walk through it. Ouachita is still supposed to be in January. It's set up, I think, for the 9th of January. Wildcat mountain bike race, February, and I kind of put in here because I don't really have all the dates for and Logan may be able to help with this, and some of them may not have been set yet. But there's usually 4 marathon mountain bike races, usually February, March, April, and then sometime in the summer. And I think that Peddlers Bash is still planning on doing, or their Peddlers is still planning on doing theirs sometime in early year 2. Hazel Valley Grand Prix is a gravel fondo. It's supposed to be in February. We've got Crosswinds that's supposed to be in February. Buffalo Headwaters was normally in January. They have moved their new date to April. Spring Classic Road Race, date hasn't been set, but it's usually in April. We've got tentative date for the Ugly Gnome, which we just talked about just a little while ago. That's usually in May. So sometime around the 16th. Talking about local crits and the local time trial, again, tentative. Wango Tango was supposed to occur in December, and it's actually moved into May of next year, which is just kind of like a mountain bike relay type race. Dog Days mountain bike race in June, Fat Tire Mountain Bike Fest. Not sure if that's going to occur in June or July. I think that has to do with the city and when they decide to do it, because it is no longer run by the same organization. So, and then we have the Kessler Mountain Jam, which is tentatively set for August. NICA's first race in September. Devil's Den tentatively on the 18th of September. And September is when cyclocross will start to come back in. Usually the first 2 cyclocross events are in central Arkansas, whether it be Hot Springs or Little Rock area. Cardiac Classic would be sometime in October if it stays in the same area. NICA's second and third race would be in October. And I think actually their second race is in September too. And then the third and fourth are in October. Spring Hill, October, tentatively on the 10th. Slobberknocker Gravel Race, tentatively October. Chinkapin, not sure, Bruce, when you're going to put that, but I would assume it would be in the fall as well. Attila's 11-14, and then a couple more Northwest Arkansas cyclocross events. There's going to be 2 more cyclocross events probably. Fayette Cross will be one of them, and another one probably sometime in October as well. So have I left anything out? I'll kind of leave that up so y'all can kind of look at it.
Chassie, the only thing that I'd like to be added on is first weekend, probably in April, will be our mountain bike festival.
Yes. When you talked about that a little while ago, I thought about that. You said probably first weekend usually.
Usually first weekend.
Okay. We'll add that in there too. Anybody else think of anything that's not up?
Hey,
I
Tim.
know it's not put on by any of us, but those epic rides events that happen, the Oz Epic and then the gravel race.
Yeah, and that I think Big Sugar is in combination with Outer Bike, which is going to be, I think, 10/22 of 21. I know I didn't talk about the Big Dam Bridge. I didn't talk about Tour de Hills. I didn't talk about the Iron Pig, which are all Bruce's events. I didn't talk about the Raptor or the Eurekan.
Or Joe Martin.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Or Joe, yeah. Hey,
Joe
Tim, just, if we want to back up just a little bit, the second 2 week, so Tim, for April 2021, Easter is the 4th, I think. Yeah, Easter's the 4th. Those next 2 weekends, 9, 10, 11, and 16, 17, 18, are green events, and that's all I can say. And that's not something, if you're another green event, you want to be on top of. So that's all I can say. Sorry about that.
No, thank you.
Yeah. And then the Oz Epic is what, October 9, 10, 9 and 10. It'll be interesting if Big Sugar comes back. I mean, October 9 and 10. I'm not confident Big Sugar will be back.
So you think that they'll just move their venue somewhere else?
Yeah,
They deferred
I'm
their
not.
registrations.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Lifetime's going to do, quite frankly.
Okay.
That's going to be a tough one for them. The Oz Epic will stay. That event weekend will definitely be the same. We're going to be talking to Eureka Springs about running Fat Tire, and so and we like June, so we want to see what that looks like as opposed to being in July. But we're going to work with the community to see what works best on that one.
And that's generally, I guess, where the Dog Days and the River Valley Rumble also ran, was in June. Is that right?
That's Logan.
Or even Tim?
Yeah, I mean, usually I'd have to go back and check the calendar.
Seems like it's always hotter than hell when you went to Dog Days.
That's usually correct. That's why it was always called the Dog Days of June style. That's a tentative date because we just really don't know what the spring is going to look like and how things are going to roll. And if, I got to be honest, I don't know, like Terry was saying, don't know what kind of event I could put on this year. So it's still kind of up in the air on that one there.
And I'm guessing that the 2021 calendar and schedule is going to end up being about as hectic as the 2020 schedule, just because of the additional requirements and all of that you have to do, and just, not really knowing how vaccine distribution and all that stuff for COVID is going to go and what they're going to allow people to do. So, if you didn't have an event in 2020, the likelihood that you would do that same event in 2021 may be a little bit less, just because you kind of don't know how to weigh it and adjust things for the 2021 schedule unless you're later on in the schedule year. And even the ones that get scheduled may get moved and may get, canceled or whatever. So we're just kind of going on with what we know. Trying to keep the lines of communication open for the calendar, trying to make sure that we have a comprehensive calendar that, when somebody wants to do a mountain bike race, that they have somewhere to come look and see, okay, well, there's already 4 events going on in June. Maybe I want to do my event in July, or maybe I want to do my event in April. And so that's kind of what we're shooting for. And that's kind of why I've gone to this color-coded system, is to give you a quick look at what similar events you have, because obviously, you know, riders that ride mountain bike don't always ride on the road or do other types of events. So you can at least, you know, try not to step on other toes for like races. And, you know, we're always going to have some kind of overlap in the other races, but, you know, when you're thinking about trying to draw a crowd, or you're thinking about a good Fondo event, it's always nice to see what else is going on in the area, and, you know, and try to spread things out so everybody can enjoy everything. Bruce, did you want to add anything about any of the dates for your stuff? I know Joe Martin was supposed to be, I had to write that one in. So 4/8 through 4/11 of April.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, am I talking? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely being moved. Like I said, we're going to start looking at June 1, and, you know, we're going to hopefully be able to, I mean, unfortunately, I bet you it's going to be April before we'll be able to set the date, and it's going to be based upon really the other pro road tour races and what the teams are willing to do. But yeah, I mean, you know, here's the other thing is, I think all promoters in every organization is going to have to understand that there is going to be races on top of each other this in 2021. Unfortunately, I mean, it's just, people are going to have to do what they've got to do to get events in. Hopefully it's not 2 road races. Hopefully it's not 2, you know, AMBCS mountain bike races, which I know it wouldn't be, but, you know, I think everybody's got to be super flexible about it, just to try to, you know, get events in.
Yeah.
Big Dam Bridge is September 20.
Last weekend in September.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on a Saturday.
Cassie?
Yes.
So,
Here.
so that being said, about the Archie is typically 2 weeks after the Big Dam Bridge. So usually like the second weekend. Now I'm just speaking if you want to jot something down.
Which race?
The Archie 100 down in Sheridan that,
The Webbers.
do what?
The Webbers, Joe Weber.
Yes. Yep, exactly.
And you said it's about 2 weeks after.
It's typically the Sunday 2 weeks after, or the second Sunday in October, I think.
Okay. And I think that actually happened this year too.
Yes, it did. You're right.
I had forgotten about that one. Okay. I'm going to get off of this. Stop. So I can see you. Okay. So kind of looking at that, which and kind of thinking about how this new schedule and, you know, the events that we do looks, you know, even next year there's not, you know, just an abundance of road events, and there's not an abundance of, you know, certainty in what we're going to be doing. And so kind of one of the things that I wanted to throw out there was to talk about the state championships. You know, if we're not going to have that many road races, or we're not going to have that many time trials, or we're not going to have that many crits, how do we put on state championships? You know, it seems kind of odd to put on a singular state championship time trial or a singular state crit when there's not been any in the state to practice on or to do anything with. And so I kind of wanted to throw that out there and see what people were thinking when it came terms to that in the 2021 season. Is, you know, what are we going to do about that? And are we interested in trying to compile that? Or, you know, with that being said, you know, just like Little Rock and Carve is doing with the local midweek series, should we try to focus on some of that instead of the larger events? Can we get some of our local clubs regionally to do, you know, just a time trial series or a crit series or a circuit road race series. You know, I know Northwest Arkansas had the Avoca series that they were able to do for a while, as long as we don't piss off the citizens of Avoca. Little Rock did the time trial series and the crit series, you know, and we've got so many clubs around here that can coordinate some of this stuff. Do we need to start looking at something like that so we can get some of these, you know, at least get the racing folks out there and get them something to do instead of just sitting on their heinies and eating the cheesecake and the bonbons.
Doing Zwift.
Exactly. So what are we thinking?
I think I recently attended the USA BMX Grand Nationals. They crowned the national champion based off of one race. And I don't have a problem with that personally. I think it can be done. So I think that's something that should be considered. And also, one thing that we did with NICA, because of the size of the program, we started what's called local dirt, which is based, instead of getting all 35 teams together, we were getting anywhere from 3 to 5 teams together. And the quality of the event, everybody still enjoyed it. It was still bike racing. But obviously the event production standards were way down. We still obviously did the risk management piece and made sure it was safe. But that was widely successful and the parents were very appreciative. So the problem is finding folks at the smaller grassroots levels, whether it be bike shops or whatever, to kind of put on these grassroots events. I think it's a good idea, but one of the things that we struggled with NICA was getting folks in these areas. I think what I will say, it's a good way to get bicycle racing out to the masses in communities that may have not seen an event before. And that's good for the sport, instead of everything having to be a big event. So that's my 2 cents on it.
I think that's well put, for sure. And I like the ideas behind the grassroots. Maybe, you know, even in the era of COVID and people are worried about, you know, the magnitude of events, and, you know, everybody's worried about how many people you're going to have at your event and all the gathering and that kind of stuff. The other thing to consider, I think, would be things like putting on more cross skills clinics or road skills clinics or mountain bike skills clinics or things like that. And I know we did those throughout this year 2020. We've done them in the past, and there's all kinds of groups out there that do that. You know, the Women of Oz do some mountain bike skills clinics. You know, NICA does skills clinics. ORC will do some skills clinics. We've got some various cyclocross clinics that happened. I'm not so great about doing the road skills clinics, but, you know, I'm sure that we can get some involvement in BMC and the Experience Fayetteville team and see if we can't do some things like that, to where, you know, if we're not going to have big races or we're not going to be doing races, you know, just having a more active cycling community. We've got all this beautiful, you know, land out here and all these beautiful roads, and I think we need to use them, and we need to be out there. Anybody else?
Yeah, you know, I think, Chastity, here's the deal. I still think we don't have a window into, you know, what's going to happen. And unfortunately, we said that, oh my God, how many months did we say that? We still don't know. We'll wait till next month. But if there ever is an opportunity to, hopefully we'll know something in a couple months, right? I mean, I think as soon as the vaccine starts rolling, whether you're on one end of the spectrum and believe it's the, you know, it's the savior, or you're on the other end and you don't like vaccines at all, at least it's going to be out there, right? And I think that's going to provide some level of comfort in the middle for folks. And then it's just going to be based upon what the climate is for, you know, states and health departments, and they're willing to do something. And then I think maybe you plan accordingly. I think the last X factor, right? And you've seen the surveys. Are people still willing to sign up? I mean, And we saw that with all 7 events. We had people clamoring to do events. But at the end of the day, did they hit the checkout button to come to max out our events? They didn't, right? So everybody wants events, but then they're, for whatever reasons, they're unwilling to do them. And so I think even if we have all clear to do, these races, are people, and especially in the road world, right? Or is there going to be enough people to put the event on just economically, right? Are there going to be enough officials? Are enough officials going to be willing to come out? I don't know. So those are.
And that's kind of why I was talking about more your local races or local skills clinics or local things, because one, it doesn't take as much official personnel, and you can do it in the unofficial, almost unofficial capacity. You can run something like that with 1 or 2 officials, or even a single person with an official, so you can do timing and results and that kind of stuff, or even your skills clinics, getting people involved and still having people out there, doing something cycling related. Go ahead. I think Logan or somebody was getting ready to say something though.
Yeah, I was about to say something. I mean, so one of the things that drove CARV to, we were very much in the Bruce Dunn camp of, kick it down the street till the next meeting and see if anything changes for most of the events that we generally have in midsummer that are all road events. The challenge, we talked about downsizing them like you were just talking about. However, it's not really the support staff or the officials that becomes the problem. It's the safety protocols that you have to do. That overhead is onerous. And to do it all for a small event is in some ways more difficult than doing it for a large event, other than just manpower resources. So that's one of the things that drove us. We didn't do the crit series. We didn't do any of the other big events in road racing, especially. Slobberknocker this year, though, it was a slam dunk, knock it out of the ballpark type of thing. We had more people show up for that than we've ever had. But that style of event, the protocol is pretty straightforward and easy too. So, it's a predicament.
I tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, that's why, I like the idea of that summer crit series that we do is a grassroots thing. With very low overhead, the challenge in doing it once again would be getting the protocols and the state health department saying, yeah, you can go do this.
Yeah.
But that was the problem early. I don't think that would be as big a deal now, but when we were having to permit it, it would have been a big deal.
And I think, with something like that, when it comes to the health department and looking at the health department, I think when you're looking at a midweek series that you're going to have less travel. So like the Evoco Circuit Series, I think the maximum amount of people, even though we had some travel from Oklahoma, like Tulsa area that would come over for some of those events, really the maximum amount we had was probably about 50 or 55 people. And I think that's what you kind of look at when you do a local series. And I think that may be a way, though, to keep the health department satisfied, or, because it's going to be in that 50 number. And I don't know if any of y'all, well, some of y'all know me fairly well and know that I work in healthcare. But to think that we're going to have some relief for the 2021 system or for the year, don't expect it. Don't expect that you're going to have any relief in that all of a sudden, because the vaccine gets released in January, that we're going to know what we need to do for the whole year, because I just don't see it happening like that. I could be wrong. But I think it's going to be more that we're just going to have to take the protocols and take the things that we've learned in the 2020 year and try to modify those for the 2021 year. I mean, I think events will happen. I just think it's going to be tedious.
Yeah. Well, Slobber Knocker was easier to permit than anything that we tried to do earlier because it's better understood.
Mm-hmm.
So that does help.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, yeah, that's right, David. I mean, as we were working with the Forest, or as I was working with the Forest Service, and even though the health department would say you don't have to do this or that if you're having X number of people, well, the Forest Service said, we don't really care how many people you have. We want the permit, you know, we want the letter to say that you've jumped through the hoops. So, and I think certainly Logan would attest to this. Attila the Hun was a huge, I think, a big success. I mean, they had people out there were enthusiastic, a great turnout. And so people are biting at the bit, so to speak. And if we have fewer the ability next year, then they're just going to be wanting to do, you know, people are going to turn out for anything they can. And I don't mean that not in a negative way, but you know, if you're a racer, it's kind of like, I don't really care. I want to go race. I want to do some of these things, and to heck with the fact that, you know, you have to keep telling them, put on your mask or do this or do that or move apart. They see that, not that they see themselves invincible, but they're so excited about getting to do something, they don't worry about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that brings up a good point, because, you know, certain races are easier, or events are easier to do than others. I mean, if you look at gravel events and mountain bike events, usually, well, I'm not going to say gravel, but mountain bike field size is usually smaller, so the numbers of people that are gathered in one place to take off are generally smaller. Gravel event, you know, you're spread off over a big course. You know, the most challenging events, as I'm sure Bruce will tell you, are the road races. You know, those events where you have the big, huge groups of people, and, you know, especially in ones like Joe Martin, where you're looking at, you know, several hundred starters in a group, or, you know, even 50 starters in one group that are all lined up together, and they're all going to ride this 4-hour course together in one group. And I think that's where the challenges come. And so, you know, I know that with the mountain bike races that some of the promoters made some adjustments and did some things a little bit different, and some of them did not. So, you know, that was kind of one of the things that I wanted to bring out when everybody was here together is, you know, what did you change, or how did things change to make things easier to put on your race? What hoops did you have to jump through to get that race on? You know, obviously, you know, your officials are in mask, and your riders, when they ride up for the line and you know, they're starting, are they in mask? Are they not in mask? You know, I know that's a recommendation, but how do all those things work? And there's even some of the races that have, you know, done staggered starts and some other things to try to help with that. Anybody have any information or thoughts on that?
I'll just say that we talked about quite a few different options for the Enduro Series this year. And there were some ways that we figured that we could get around some of those being too close to each other, having staggered start times. We have talked about races that usually race day is on Sunday, and Saturday is usually a kind of trial day, practice day, run the lines and everything, everyone gets a feel. But taking out that day on Saturday and splitting it into 2 different days with staggered starts to try to split up the group that usually would come out for the full weekend. But what it came down to was that a lot of ours depended on shuttles and people being shuttled back up because of our locations. And that was the thing that we just couldn't find a good, safe way around it. I think that that's something that we're still going to be really conscious of next year. And I don't want to speak too much for Candace on that, but we'll be looking for ways to address that next year. And those are some of the things we've talked about, especially about the split into 2 days, and really making it the full weekend. Make it just encouraging and enforcing that people keep their distance from each other, and trying to still find a way to enjoy the race aspect and the party aspect that comes with Enduro and other events, but finding a way to do that safely. It'll be a challenge. I don't know yet what we'll do, but those are things that we've talked about.
And I think Terry shared with everybody that the NICA events went to kind of a time trial based. So they didn't do any mass starts for the NICA races. They expected all the participants to wear a mask when they lined up, and then they wanted everyone that came, I guess, to wear a mask too. So I don't know how you control that in larger crowds, but NICA, it's the parents usually. So I'm sure that's easier to control that way. Anybody else have any experience or any thoughts related to that kind of stuff?
I'm going to change the subject for just a second, Chassie, because you did make the comment earlier about, or anybody going to do like racing simulations and stuff like that. And I've already kind of thought about very infinite at this point, because seeing what happens January and February, hopefully by March, April, when people can get back outside or whatever. But I'm going to tax some of my guys to actually teach and simulate races, so we can get people that they're not going to travel to do races, but maybe they want to do a VOCA, but really don't know what's going on. So I'm going to have like mini clinics with some of the guys that know how to race. And of course, we'll probably put it on the Bellevue page, because it can be for anybody. It's not necessarily just for BMC guys, but I want to get my guys that want to do a VOCA or want to go to do the Little Rock race, the Crosswinds, or any other race they want to do. But I want them to understand how to race. It's not a free-for-all. There are tactics, and there are things that they need to do. But I want to keep them engaged in riding, not just riding with our group, but more riding with the purpose of getting better and being better cyclists. So that's what I've already kind of, Bill Sowers was the race coordinator when he stepped down from president a year or so ago. And now he's going to step back even further. So I'm going to tax Joe Buma to kind of lead that group now, and get all the guys that are racing for BMC anyway in one kind of huddle, but get all the other guys that just want to ride but want to experience it, get them out there and see what they can do, and then maybe go on and actually start racing in other venues. But that's what we've got planned, and hopefully we can actually do it. But January and February are going to be really tough times. We'll see what happens.
And that's exactly one of the things that I was talking about. So thanks for sharing that. To me, that's part of that grassroots. That's the step right below doing a local midweek series something. And I think that's been missing from a lot of our clubs and a lot of the groups around here. And I think that's something that we can still do, even if we can't put on an event. So that's one of the things I was talking about.
I think the other thing, and I've talked to Ben Craig and asked him if he was going to do a VOCA, and told him that, if you need people to help, marshal or whatever, let me know. I've got the guys. We'll put them out there. But also trying to find some place, maybe a VOCA is the only place we can go that we can simulate some of this stuff. I don't know of any other places that has, a big parking lot or something like that we can abandon, that we can go in and kind of simulate some crits or whatever. So if you know of anything, let me know. But right now, it'll probably be a VOCA where we do it.
And that may be a good thing to have some of the local clubs kind of do a brainstorming session, have BMC and the Wheelmen and, a couple reps from all the local teams, Little Rock area, Carve and Velo and all of those, like they have, get together and kind of sit down and kind of run the terrain and all that and try to figure out places to do some of those clinics. Is there somebody else that was going to pipe in that we cut off?
Well, I mean, I think again, the protocols beforehand, people, if you're just looking and, you didn't do an event, I think Jim talked about it earlier. Beforehand, people are very, they're very diligent about adhering to the protocols. What we saw afterwards is it's not that they weren't diligent, but they stayed within their pods, is what I ended up saying, their training group or their family. And so without masks. So beforehand, 99%, everybody's through the protocols. Afterwards, and so if you're worried about what is probably going to happen or you need to have a heads up, I think post-event, if you're worried about what the local officials may say, or if it's a social media issue or it's your own organization, that post-event, this year they were not very compliant, i.e. from a visual standpoint. Within their group, they were very compliant because they'd been training with that group. But that's the one thing that you're going to put out all these protocols, are going to follow them. But afterwards, if you feel like you're going to have people looking over your shoulder that would take a photo and a snapshot and judge your event based upon what happens post-event, then you're probably living, not in the reality, of the real world. Such as, that was probably the biggest takeaway we got. Otherwise, I think you can hold events. Well, we held events this year, but everything was under 350 people and pretty spaced out, and no pack racing, right?
Right. Shall we move on? There was one of the things that I had on the new business was, and we may not have enough participation here and all across to be able to figure this one out, but is still trying to figure out how ABC can help some of the local clubs. What can we do, to help support the local clubs? Is there equipment that needs to be, Arkansas, it's hard to shuttle equipment all the way across, and Carve has figured that out for Central Arkansas to have equipment. But, is there something that we can do? I know that AMBCS was looking at timing equipment, and that was something that I thought, oh, well, maybe that's something that we can do and offer for, our racers, is do some type of chip timing. Can we offer that service? Is that something that people would be interested in? But again, it's something that's going to have to shuttle across the state. And so I couldn't quite figure out what it was, or a good idea as to something that the ABC can offer. I want to make sure that we're providing you with a service or something. And the most that I've been able to do so far has just been, this organized calendar and trying to get people together as far as that goes. But, I want to, again, throw that out to our local clubs and see what you have as suggestions of things that we can do to help y'all.
Hey, I was informed by two people that Logan is trying to get back in. I do not see him here.
Let me have him try again.
Okay.
Okay.
And I don't know if Tiffany can hear us. It says connecting to audio. I sent her message and she did not reply.
I don't know.
Can you hear us, Tiffany?
Mm-mm. One of the things that in doing all this stuff that I kind of thought about That may be a way to help some of our local clubs, because I've started, sharing the events on Facebook and, through our calendar and website, is maybe putting some money that the ABC has into, I don't know, what do you call it, Paul? We're promoting, or, through Facebook to share those events so it gets posted to a wider variety of people. Maybe we can do something like that would help. Some of the event sharing is to add some funds into the that section in order to help. That was the only thing I personally could come up with.
How's your race official crew, Chassie? Because when we start going again and we start having events that are competitive, I think there's going to be a big need to, build that crew up again, right?
Well, I'll know in January.
But I thought it was pretty depleted, though. Hadn't it been a bit, there have been some people retiring, not renewing, or not necessarily?
Yeah, no, the only person that I know that has retired or that's not planning on renewing was, I don't have my list, is I think Little Rock. So some of our Little Rock officials are bowing out. The Beelans are, I don't know if they're going to officiate this year. Sid, I thought, was going to retire or is going to stop officiating. So that's Little Rock crew as well.
The Chassie. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sid, it was Sid that said he was
Retiring.
not going to do it. But the other thing is that last spring, I'm sorry. Last winter, we held a officials
Clinic.
training here. And so we signed up and got several new people involved and signed up and registered. And then, of course, they came out and worked some of, David, how many? We had a few of the new ones out at Crosswinds, I believe.
I had 4 new ones at Crosswinds.
So we did gain, it was a gain for us in officials, but then they had nowhere to go and train all year.
Right. So I think we added maybe 6 officials or 6 or 8 officials that were supposed to be added to the system. And I think we were losing 3. So I don't know that it's changed
a
whole lot, but again, none of the officials, unless they're awesome officials like Tim Scott, are going to be happy with, their skills and all that stuff. Cause none of them have really worked anything for a year now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's that problem, but there's also just the problem of having the right level of official in the right areas. I mean, even Crosswinds, we generally pull people from Northwest Arkansas or sometimes out of state to officiate at Crosswinds. And, that just drives everyone's cost up. I'm happy that people want to travel. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, but not having all the bases covered that you need covered for a certain size of event is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And I can imagine that you have that in spades, Bruce, when some of the
So maybe that's a way ABC can help out for the 2021 season. Maybe the travel cost, maybe not officiating cost, but if you're having to pull in officials from across the state or maybe out of state and we can't find somebody local because we don't have the right officials, maybe that's something that we can do. I was looking for something that would help not just the racing promoters and the racing organizations, but something that would help any of the events that are going on. And so not all events have officials, but that certainly could help the racing part of it.
One of the things that we've been working on is just and we've helped a couple of the other local clubs, is what do you need to do to put on an event just to cover your bases. And, I've been trying to direct people towards using registration through USA Cycling even, and people have the confusion of, well, it's not a race and all of that type of stuff. But we've helped quite a few of the local clubs, and just how do you cover your bases? You got to get a permit. Who is it? Who do you permit through? Who do you contact? I mean, some of that type of stuff. I think that helps everybody because it enables more events. Now, this coming year may not be a good year to try to do that. But, so anyway, that's one of the things that we've been doing and helping out some of the other clubs that want to put on an event for the first time.
So maybe some type of position or resource within the ABC that can help coordinate events.
Or just do some of the networking of, well, here's someone reaches out to you. Okay, here's some local people who know what you need to do. I mean, I know Jim and I were willing to help.
I think this time, and probably many organizations did this, you use this time this year to get prepared for things you've never done. And so I wonder if we're going to build our library, if you will, or our capacity or our ideas or our bank account when it really does unwind, right? And we're ready to go again. And I think it was just difficult in our industry to do anything, quite frankly, right? Unless you were in it like us, if it wasn't your job, you probably just shut down in some respects unless you could do an event. But I think this next year, probably, Chassie, to your point, at some point we're going to have to look at a timing system in the state of Arkansas. It's probably more mountain biking, but it's still raising the level in the road racing. The level of official, right, as David just said it, I mean, you need some high-level judges at the end of the day, right? I mean, you can have officials that follow in vehicles and that, but if you don't have really a person at the B level to judge an event, especially Crosswind, Spring Classic, taking Joe Martin off the radar, it's just not going to get scored well. And that's nothing against those folks. They just cannot do it. But they also can't learn, I think a lot of the Joe Martin officials, they teach the other new officials. It's like, wow, I could have never learned that being on my own at a race. Oh, I see what you're doing, and it's in person. So I think the education level is super important for our race officials because we had developed a lot of high-end officials and they just got tired or burnt out or, hey, I can't work every weekend. So I think it's a multitude of things, Chassie. I think the AMBCS would love to have y'all support, for some timing. Hopefully we can get a grant over there. I say we. So I think it's a multitude of things. Like David said, best practices, building a race director's toolbox so they're just not totally overwhelmed or caught out of left field because they didn't know. Using USA Cycling sanctioning and insurance is super cheap. I don't know why you would ever run naked on that one. It's just, the attorney fees alone would crush you. So, I can be their biggest critic too. So, anyway, that's kind of
on the flip. What Bruce just said, not just having officials travel to supplement travel to, judge crosswinds for an example, but do the opposite. Facilitate some of the new officials in Little Rock to travel to an event like, something Northwest Arkansas or any other event where they can, there's need for some low-level officials, but is a great learning platform for them. I think would be beneficial.
So supplementing like one or two apprentices for an event to show up at, that's somebody you wouldn't have to worry about paying for, that the ABC could pay for.
Right.
Okay.
And USA Cycling's done that, at Class A races, they'll bring in apprentice for Joe Martin stage race, and they're here and I'm not having to pay for them, and they're B officials trying to learn A's. So again, you've got to bring them up. They've got to have someone who's willing to teach them and who's at a high level. There's no reason for them just to go. They need to, right?
Yeah, there's definitely that catch-22 that you can't move up because nobody will teach you. And et cetera, et cetera. And then, I mean, I really enjoy it, doing the officiating, but trying to get a spot somewhere. And I loved doing Joe Martin last year. And it's a really good environment for learning because everybody that I dealt with was nice and cooperative and so forth, but it was a great experience. And you really go away from that feeling like I've accomplished something and learned something.
Good, Jim, because that's not always been the case.
Yeah.
The user-friendly UCI officials.
I think what was cool about that is you got to do like you're rushing around, you got to do almost a little bit of every discipline. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what do you mean? I got to go where, do what? Okay. So it was a lot of fun though.
Well, those are all good, good suggestions. Does anybody have anything else that they can think of?
I think it would be perhaps good if we could feed those to you, because it's like, you get through with this time and maybe tomorrow you think of something, just feed it to you, email you some ideas or something, which again, in turn, you could put back out to the group.
Yeah. If you do not know my email address, you can send it to Arkansas Bicycle Coalition at gmail.com. That's on the website as well. If you haven't been to the website, please go. It's www.abc-arkansas.org. That's where our events calendar is. That's where the contacts are. You can find links to get to all of the local clubs. If you have not been there and haven't looked at all the clubs that are listed on our website, please go, because there may be some that are in your area that I don't have on there that I want to make sure that we connect with those places. Each of the, drawing a blank, I'm getting older. Each of the symbols or the club decals is connected to their Facebook site or their website or whatever. So if you go to that ABC website and you click on, say, BMC, it will take you directly to their Facebook page or their website. If you clicked on CARB, it's going to take you to the CARB website. So it not only has that information there, but it also has that connection. So, if somebody comes to Arkansas and they're looking for somebody to ride with in the Little Rock area or those types of things, that they can connect with some of those local groups and get that information. We kind of led into the officials things and the officials for races, so we talked about that. I'm going to go ahead and make a list probably after this meeting on who the officials we actually have are, but I think that to keep our officials engaged as well, that may be a good idea, is to start sending some apprentices to some of these events that maybe we have, to try to get some more use for y'all and some more use for the officials. Is there anything else that I have not talked about that you want to talk about or that I have missed? Because we're getting ready to wrap it up. And nobody's speaking up, so I will work on the calendar. So you'll see over the next week or so, if you looked at the website, it's going to be, the events will show up on the website. As the events change, they show up on the website. If you ever notice that there's something on the calendar that shouldn't be on there or that has changed or needs to be deleted, please contact me or please let me know. I am the only one doing it, so if you don't tell me, sometimes I miss it. And if I didn't list your event, please tell me, because I want to make sure that they're all on there. I want to make sure everybody has adequate exposure side as well. We probably won't set the date for next year's meeting, but you can expect that it's going to be something similar to this. It'll probably be at the end of the year like this. I think it works a little bit better to get some of the information to start the new year. And then it allows the board to meet, sometime in January, so we can get a jump started on things that are going to happen. The only thing that I did not have on the agenda, which I meant to put on there, but y'all have so lovingly reminded me by staring at me, is that if there's anyone that is interested in serving on the Arkansas Bicycle Coalition board in a position, you have just the passion or whatever for cycling and you want to be part of the Arkansas Bicycle Coalition, we will eventually not be doing this. I didn't sign up like Bruce did for an indefinite term as being president. And I think that the best way to transition, if there is people or there are people out there that are interested in doing this, is to do some type of transition year. So say if David, if you're interested in being president, you know, of the Arkansas Bicycle Coalition, hit me up and we'll go through the motions and the processes and we'll pair you with the person that you're interested in replacing, as opposed to, I don't see us having a big election because we don't have a whole lot of interest until we get more interest going on. But if there's anybody that's interested and we have something, you know, serving a term with a, you know, sitting president or serving a term with a sitting vice president or serving the term with the sitting secretary. So you have, you know, a year or a half a year to get exposure to the job and what happens and what's going on. It doesn't take a whole lot of time commitment to do that. I have a full-time job, I race, I'm an official. So you don't have to have a whole lot of time to do it, but you do have to have a passion to do it. So if there's anybody out there, if you know anybody that's interested, send them my way and we'll sit down and have a chat.
Good.
Anybody have anything else? If not, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for showing up tonight. I appreciate everybody's input and opinion, and we will see you out there on the roads.
Good to see your faces.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for setting it up.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Thank you,
Christmas.
everybody.